On this Easter weekend, I'll give some of my thoughts on the death of Jesus of Nazareth, a death which should be recognized as one of the most significant deaths in the history of the world. None of us were alive when Jesus died circa 30 CE. The best way to understand what happened to Jesus in his final days, apart from magic or divine telepathy, is largely to read the Canonical Gospels, some early Christian letters, and perhaps a minor attestation we find in Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews. To gain a truly comprehensive understanding of what happened to the Nazarene, tomes of literature must be read in at least 4 different ancient languages, and decades of research and study are required. But to gain some idea of what happened to Jesus, we each have to act as small ancient historians, unless that is you just take for granted the words of other people, in which case this doesn't apply to you. I would encourage you all to do your own research when possible. So if we truly want to gain some understanding of what happened, we have to be little ancient historians in our own right. Most of us, though, are put in a very difficult position because we are not trained in historical methodology, nor are we familiar with ancient literary motif. For most people, the canonical Gospels are the only ancient biographies in view, and biblical text is the only interaction they have with the ancient world. Needless to say, this myopic perspective brings with it tremendous misconception and error. This prefaces the more relevant and substantive idea of this video, which is the death of Jesus of Nazareth occurs on different days depending on which gospel is being read. I don't think that this discrepancy has any theological significance. I think that if a God were to die for the sins of the world, it wouldn't particularly matter what day or time that took place. But then again, that's me thinking logically, which doesn't really work out so well a lot of the times with religious ideas. But I am interested in this because this discrepancy does have textual and historical significance. I'm just simply interested in Christianity generally and genuinely, which is probably why I'm in the position I am in currently. I'm just genuinely interested, and I want to know the answers to significant questions. In the Synoptic Gospels, Jesus is crucified and dies on the day of Passover in the morning, about halfway through the Jewish day of Passover. The Jewish day before his execution, the first day of Unleavened Bread, on which day the Passover is prepared, the Passover meal, the disciples do prepare the meal, and in the evening, which is the start of the new Jewish day, Jesus and his disciples meet and partake of this Passover meal together. After morning comes on the day of Passover, Jesus is handed over to Pilate and executed. In the Gospel of John, we read a different accounting of these events. In this Gospel, Jesus is executed on the Jewish day before Passover. This is clear when we read the high priests brought Jesus to Pilate's headquarters, but did not go in. Otherwise, they would be defiled and unable to eat the Passover. We read further that around the 6th hour, which would be around 12 p.m., on the Jewish day before Passover, Jesus is crucified and dies. The fun begins when we start to ask why. Why is it that in the Gospel of John, Jesus dies before the Jewish day of Passover on the first day of Unleavened Bread, but in the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus dies on the Jewish day of Passover, which is historically accurate? We can conclude that Jesus likely died sometime around the beginning of the Jewish festival of Passover, and each gospel author assumed their own license to portray these events in the way they saw fit. They had no conception of history as we do today. They had no desire to fulfill any modern criteria of an accurate historical record. The highest priority of these gospel authors was to show people that Jesus was God, to tell people that Jesus died for their sins and that salvation is found in him. This was their goal. The Synoptic Gospel authors had their own reasons for portraying the events surrounding Jesus' death the way they did, And the author of the Gospel of John had his own unique form of doing so, emphasizing Jesus' role as the Passover lamb, the one that was executed for the sins of the world. Each gospel author knew that their account was completely accurate because it revealed the truth.